Yeah.
I will call the meeting to order. I squale siem na sietya. I na squalawin kawana silam nala. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional and ancestral lands of the Coast Salish people. Um, for myself, I know it's the Kawatsan people where we live, learn, and play. Moving to adoption of the agenda, I'd like to ask for the addition of item 7.1.7, Kamloops residential school discovery, and then ask for a motion to adopt the agenda. Moved by trustee DeGroot, seconded by trustee Croft. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to minutes. The first is the minutes of the May 4th open board meeting. Motion to adopt the minutes, please. Moved by trustee Croft, seconded by trustee DeGroot. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item 4, recognition and delegations. And our recognition this evening is to Jenny Redmond, who we recognized last year as well, who is from Thetis Island Elementary School, and she has won the BCRTA, or BC Retired Teachers Association Excellence in Public Education Committee 2021 Golden Star Award. And I see Jenny is here, so thank you for joining us. I'm not sure if we're going to only have her audio. Oh, there she is. Hi, Jenny. Thanks for attending. And I'd just like to say that the Board of Education would like to recognize again this school year yourself, Jenny Redmond. For the second year in a row, Thetis Island school teacher Jenny Redmond's Student Senior Intergenerational Program has been selected to receive this reward. Ms. Redmond's Thetis Island School Student Senior Intergenerational Program creates connections between students and seniors in the community. Some examples of collaborations to date include beach walks and cleanup of the ocean floor, a sea aquarium managed by elders and initiated by the Thetis Island Nature Conservancy, a Mason Bee program, a reading listening program, a pen pal program, and visits from First Nations elder from Penelakut to talk about residential schools on Orange Shirt Day. Some of these programs stopped due to COVID, but others were able to continue, such as the beach walk and cleanup of the ocean floor, the Mason Bee program, the Pen Pal program, which expanded to many new elders who had not been involved in Thetis Island School, a virtual visit from a Canadian poet, and a First Nations elder visit. Sounds like a very active program. Well, thank you for all of your extra work to organize. So congratulations on this well-deserved reward. We are proud of the work that you do and your dedication to your students, your school, and seniors involved in your program. Thank you, Jenny. Congratulations. And you will receive a card from us. It's in the mail. Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to say? Oh, you'll have to turn your mic on.
No, I just want to say thank you. I think you've acknowledged everything there, and it's something I love to do. So it's great to get the reward as well.
Well, thank you and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thanks for attending. Okay, moving to item 5, report and closed meeting. Mr. Sandquist.
Thank you. The board met in closed session prior to this meeting and concluded the business of the day. There were personnel items, an information request, and contractual agreements discussed.
Thank you. Moving to item 6, old business action list. I wonder if you could bring that up, please, Mr. Sandquist.
Okay, can you see that?
Yes, we can. And
you.
I'd like to say that the board retreat and Indigenous cultural event are on our agenda. Is there anything else? Oh, and Pride flag as well. Is there anything else that you'd like to update us, staff?
I would, if I could, I'd like to share with the board that with regard to the legacy wall, it has been put on hold because we are certainly looking forward to a future event around the unveiling of such. And so I think more to come in the fall. And then with regard to our flag poles, I know that we are presently looking at doing some restoration of this particular building. And so as we move forward around that, I have been in conversation with operations, and we can look at how do we actually provide more flagpole areas to accommodate a number of flags that we are still in conversation around, some of those with our Indigenous communities. So more to come as well.
Thank you. Any other items, staff? No? Okay. So moving on to chair of the board, and I'd like to just mention prior to my report that that we feel the condolences that we need to send out to the families and colleagues and friends of our casual bus driver, Ian Ritchie, who has passed away. Certainly we appreciate all of our bus drivers, and Ian was someone who stepped up to help when our bus drivers were unavailable, and we certainly woe the passing of an employee. So moving to board information, the first item is on the Wellness and Recovery Center. And having heard that Island Health and the Lookout Housing and Health Society were available to speak with local governments and community members, I invited them to attend today, and I'm hoping Claire can bring them in. We have Dana Lake, director for the new center. She's director also for director of mental health for Cowichan and Nanaimo. Shane Williams, who I believe is the ED from Lookout Housing and Health Society. Dr. Shannon Waters, our medical health officer in the Cowichan Valley region, and Sheila Ledbetter, executive director for clinical services delivery for the mental, for a whole lot of places. So I'll just leave it at there and welcome them in and ask them to present the information that you have been sharing in our community.
Great, thank you so much for that introduction and for the welcome. My name is Dana Like, and I am the Director of Operations for Mental Health and Substance Use for Central Island. And I also have responsibilities for our regional tertiary mental health and substance use services for both the adult and seniors population. And I am calling in from the traditional and unceded territory of the Stanamis people today. And I am grateful to be here to share information about the Cowichan Valley Wellness and Recovery Center with my fellow colleagues. And I do come with regrets from Sheila Ledbetter. She was unable to attend today. So I will pass it over to Dr. Waters to introduce.
Well, good day, everyone. My name is Shannon Waters. I am a public health and preventive medicine physician, medical health officer for the Cowichan Valley region. And fortunately, with what's going on with COVID, I can come back to focusing on the Cowichan Valley region again. So yeah, nice to be here this afternoon.
Hi, I'm Shane Williams. I'm the CEO of Lookout Housing and Health Society and Lookout Foundation, and proud partner on the Wellness Center, and coming to you from the Kakite First Nations here in New Westminster, BC. And just want to thank them for the land and for the use and the ability to live, laugh, and love on their territory here. We've also got Lisa Murphy, who wasn't on the docket, but she is the operational director for the Wellness Center. And she's probably in the waiting room. So if you wanted to invite her so that the board could see her face and she could be on camera, she won't be speaking tonight, but she is part of our organization and will be very involved in the operations of the Wellness Center moving forward. So I leave that up to you if you'd like that. Great, there she is.
Welcome.
Okay, so I am tasked with the technological, so let's just all hope that my screen share comes up. And does that look right? Yes, okay, phew. All right, and so Dr. Waters will start us off on our presentation.
It looks to me like I've just lost the slides. I don't know if anyone else is having the same. Yeah.
Yes.
There we go. They're back.
Thanks, Dana. So yeah, again, just thanks everyone for gathering so we can have some time to discuss the Cowichan Valley Wellness and Recovery Center. Dana, if you could forward it to the next slide. We're all aware, and my position actually exists here in the Cowichan Valley because of a public health emergency that we are well within, years into, and that is the ongoing toxic drug poisoning crisis. This has caused hundreds of people in the Cowichan Valley to suffer overdoses each year, and we know sadly that dozens of people do not survive. I want to, as this slide is coming up, take a moment to acknowledge that this slide here speaks to morbidity and mortality that individuals who are mothers, fathers, children, sisters, aunties, uncles, brothers of people within our valley are reflected in these numbers. Along the top in the blue bars, you can see toxic drug poisoning calls that are attended by BC Ambulance within the Cowichan Valley. And this is over the years 2016 to 2021. You can see here a rather steadily increasing trend over that time period. And 2021 is only up until the end of April. So obviously not as many numbers there. Along the bottom in the gray, you can see the toxic drug poisoning deaths within the Cowichan Valley. There is a bit more variability within these numbers. We have our high for the number of deaths within 2018, where we lost 32 individuals. I will say we've got 4 so far listed for 2021, and we have had some, just continuation of devastating numbers within the Cowichan Valley in the last week. So just as of this afternoon, we have issued a drug poisoning alert for the Cowichan Valley. Next slide. So given what we've continued to see over time and things that we've learned over that time period, we now are embarking in this approach of having a Cowichan Valley Wellness and Recovery Center within our area. It's needed to save lives and support people's health and well-being. And we're really excited to have that be in partnership with Lookout Housing and Health Society.
Thank you, Dr. Waters. The Cowichan Valley Wellness and Recovery Center will offer a holistic approach to mental health and substance use through prevention, treatment, and recovery services. These services will be offered in partnership with Island Health and Lookout Health and Housing Society, and we will focus on that journey that people will be on through the prevention, treatment, and recovery. Addiction and substance use disorder can affect anyone, and it is not something that can be simply willed away, just as cancer or diabetes. It cannot be cured by willpower. Substance use disorder is a chronic disease that requires specialized treatment. And with proper treatment and support, recovery from substance use disorder is possible. The complications of addictions and substance use disorder can result in job loss, relationship breakdowns, trauma, and even can lead to homelessness. Together with specialized treatment services that we will partner between Island Health and Lookout, we will be able to provide services to people when they are ready to engage to change their lives. How will we do that? So the Cowichan Valley Wellness and Recovery Center is based on a model that is truly about a team of support. The people that will be located within the Wellness and Recovery Center providing those services ranges from anywhere from doctors with addictions medicine specialty, primary care physicians, nurses, nurse practitioners. We will be involving families in the journey. We will have harm reduction workers, support and recovery workers, psychiatrists, and we will be involving people with lived and living experience to guide the treatment, to guide the program and the service delivery. The service model that will be provided at the Cowichan Valley Wellness and Recovery Center, as I mentioned before, goes through a range, and it's not linear. People can enter at any point in time in their journey, starting with prevention, early intervention, treatment options, and recovery. And again, I want to highlight that this is a fluid journey for people. There is not one beginning and one end, and re-entering is always possible. The common thread through this model is the element of primary care. This will provide an opportunity for people who have not received primary care services to ensure that a holistic approach to their health will be met. Within prevention, we'll be offering harm reduction, overdose prevention. We will continue with our encampment outreach and COVID response and engaging peer supports. In early intervention, we will have opioid agonist therapy. We will have pharmaceutical alternatives available to people, managed alcohol programs, and addictions medicine specialty. Within our treatment span, we will have stabilization of medicine, behavioral care planning, and the integration of concurrent mental health and substance use services. And when people are ready to move into recovery, we will have relapse prevention, substance use and treatment and recovery options available. And again, that peer support that will be consistent throughout the model. Being a good neighbor is critical in our community where we all live, work, and play. And what does that mean? Island Health and Lookout Housing and Health Society are taking measures now to ensure that the area around the center is clean and tidy, that the center is included in the current security corridor, and that the community can reach center staff with any concerns and feedback. Ensuring that there is that feedback mechanism so that when things are not going well and when we have opportunities to celebrate, our doors will be open for that feedback. Community conversations have already taken place. We had 3 virtual sessions with presentation and questions and answers. On May 19th, we offered 2 sessions, and on May 20th, we had 1 session. And we have ongoing various meetings with other community key stakeholders, such as the local governments, First Nations, provincial and federal elected officials. And this has been ongoing. We started that journey in May, and we have opportunities and engagement sessions throughout the month of June. Moving forward, we will be establishing a community advisory committee. And this committee will be an ongoing structure that will be representative of a multitude of partners throughout our community. There will be neighbors, business owners, government officials, Island Health representatives, school board representatives, and this will be a committee that will build and maintain positive relationships amongst the community, the center operators, and the program partners. The Community Advisory Committee will facilitate information sharing and dialogue and it will be able to identify and resolve any issues, opportunities, and concerns related to the center. The timeline for the Cowichan Valley Wellness and Recovery Center. In March, our building renovations took place, well commenced, and is ongoing. In May and June, we have been hosting the community conversations. In September, we will be establishing the Community Advisory Committee. And by mid-fall, the Cowichan Valley Wellness and Recovery Center will be opening at 5878 York Road. And as I mentioned, ongoing, the commitment from the Community Advisory Committee will that we will be meeting on a regular basis. That concludes our presentation. And I will just highlight, I did send the PowerPoint in, but we have an email for any questions or comments or concerns that you would like to connect directly with myself. And that is cvwrc@vha.ca. And our website is up and running at www.islandhealth.ca/Cowichan Wellness Recovery Center. And on there, we have updated information, updates to the progression of the renovations and other useful information about the center. So I will stop screen sharing. And open to any questions or comments.
I've had my hand up. I don't know if you can see it in the chat, Dr. Waters.
Go ahead, Trustee Thorne.
Have you considered combining addictions with homelessness? And some of the things you mentioned were really good, but you left out employment training and temporary housing when they complete any treatment. And has VHA considered looking at what's going on in Seattle and Pittsburgh, where they're dealing with this, but on a whole different level and having a tremendous success rate?
So
Question, and that's my concern.
thank you, Trustee Thorne. Could I direct the question to Dr. Waters?
Sure, I can say a few words to begin with, and I think Dana and Jean might have some comments as well. So with regards to what you brought up around, concurrent issues with regards to homelessness and, the positive benefits of employment, I think those types of things are definitely, within consideration within the larger scope of work. I think when there's this type of approach where there's multiple individuals who are interfacing with clients in multiple places to talk with different providers, I think some of those conversations will happen even more so than in the current environment where this service is provided. But I'll let Dana and Shane say a bit more about that. And with regards to, I think what you had brought up around approaches in Seattle, I'm not sure particularly what you're referring to there, but I imagine there's been some, coverage of some of the approaches around mandatory treatment. I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to. It looks like you're nodding yes. So again, I'll ask my colleagues to say a few comments as well, but I will say that mandatory kind of treatment for any types of conditions can be shown, and you're saying in Seattle that there is some evidence show that it is working. I think in terms of how long when it is working that might stick for, I think can be under debate. But also I think when we look at things such as mandatory requiring treatment for addiction or vaccination or any type of treatment, we really have to take a look at the human rights aspect to things and how everyone is in a different trajectory in terms of how they might be best supported with their journey with, addictions or what have you. So we are not considering that type of approach within Island Health. We're looking at, supporting people in different ways and not making a certain approach mandatory. But yeah, I'll leave it open to my colleagues.
Thank you, Dr. Waters. So just a few comments on your question. I think employment is absolutely an important step to overall wellness and community connection. So I applaud you for seeing that kind of missing piece. I think that it's essential that there's some consideration in terms of overall housing first models, and those models have been used in Seattle and Pittsburgh, both with some pretty successful outcomes. And really, truly what our organization, Lookout Housing and Health Society, focuses in on, because, we do a lot of health programming, but we do more shelters and more supported housing than anything else. It's really, the solution to homelessness is housing. The site has physical limitations to adding housing to, help with the homelessness issues in the neighborhood. Luckily, pretty progressive council in North Cowichan and Duncan have put together a couple of localities where there is affordable housing coming to the community on White Road and at Drinkwater. And Lookout will be one of the operators for the Drinkwater site, and can see the wellness center being a referral into that housing if there happens to be a vacancy, or if there is an opportunity to get somebody off the streets and housed, that we would take that opportunity, certainly. Employment and the health combination is probably maybe a little preemptive, sometimes putting the cart before the horse. If somebody's unwell, whether that's mental health, addiction, primary care, which this center will help address all of those items, they probably need that help first, and then hopefully we can refer, so there's a continuation of people's journey to wellness. And that some of those referral spots might be ongoing recovery and treatment places, because it won't happen in a small amount of time in some cases where people will need more supports. It could be ongoing housing. It could be employment opportunities. And so, part of the center's mandate will be to triage people to those next places within the continuum, so that you can take that opportunity when somebody decides to make a change in their life. Often those changes lead to other opportunities and other changes. And so we want to really take advantage of that and, provide other choices to folks when they are kind of going through that change in their life.
Thank you. Trustee Croft, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. So first of all, I'd just like to thank the wellness team for giving such careful consideration to so many different constituents and looking to personalize care and operations for a very broad community. My question has to do with the scope and delivery of service. Are these services modeled after any other proven approaches? And if so, are you looking at any prediction as to how many people you serve, as to the impact? What kind of outcomes are we looking at?
Can I pass that back to one of our presenters?
Who wants it? Me? Dana? Me?
How about I'll start and then you can carry us through. So thank you so much for that very interesting question. And from my perspective, I'm really excited to be entering in a service model where we are co-locating such a spectrum of services and including an overdose prevention site all in one location. So bringing together the models of assertive community treatment teams, intensive case management teams, substance use intensive treatment teams, psychiatry, physicians, addictions medicine doctors, that whole spectrum is really going to be able to offer people services at a point in time that is specific to them. So instead of, having to wait for a referral or go to another location, it will be all sort of like a one-stop shop. And so my prediction and my hope is that as we co-locate all of our services that are currently spread across 3 locations in the Cowichan Valley, which I'm sure you're familiar with Gibbons Road, 222 Cowichan Way, and Trunk Road, people will have the opportunity to get whatever services is identified as needed and required in a very streamlined, time efficient way where they're not having to wait for services. In terms of the data, we will definitely be looking at a number of indicators to ensure that we are providing a service that is meeting the needs. And so we've already started doing some proactive data collection around emergency response in the location, any sort of RCMP response in the location, and looking at tracking those numbers so that we are bringing people inside in order to provide those services and care. And I'll turn it over to Shane to speak to the co-location of OPSs within service models that I've just described.
So thank you, Trustee Croft, for the question. So we've done some work on looking at similar types of models, and Vancouver Coastal Health has several in lots of their locations. And what we find is for people that have been homeless for a while, or folks that are suffering both from addiction and mental health, having kind of a spectrum of services that, as Dana said in the presentation, people can come in and out of as they see fit or what they think will help them in the moment, really does provide more opportunities to make changes, because there's chances of them sticking or connecting to one of those services is greater. Folks don't aspire to be homeless. They don't aspire to be street entrenched. They don't aspire to be disenfranchised. Usually it is, from their perception, a failing of systems that are supposed to be in there, supporting them, whether that's the school system or MCFD or the criminal justice system or, health systems. They have quite often, in my experience, a real failure within some of those systems that are meant to protect us. And this is a way and an opportunity to re-engage and to try to combine the expertise of great doctors like Dr. Waters and grassroots organizations like Lookout that have a rapport and a dynamic with folks and try to broker trust and relationship with people, so that when and if they want to make a change in their lifestyle, that we grab them in that small moment of opportunity where they want to make that change, because without if we miss those opportunities, we only become further part of the problem. And so what you see in some of these spots through Vancouver Coastal Health is a really rapid, not everybody's going to stick to programming, not everybody's going to be coming to the center, but for the ones that do, you're seeing a pretty good percentage of those folks go into and make much better lifestyle choices, a lot less use, a better med compliance, a little less kind of frightening behaviors on the street, less outdoor public use of drugs, and a better overall connection to the service providers that they will need at some point or another. There are people that don't know how to navigate addiction help or mental health help. And I don't know if anybody on the calls had loved ones previously that have struggled to get help of this kind, and you've been an advocate for them. But it is, even though I work full-time in the field, it is very, very hard to find help for people that I care about around me. It's not a easy system to navigate. So I applaud our health partners in presenting a model of this ilk in a neighborhood that could use it, in the hopes of having a positive impact on the health in the general community. And, you know, it won't just be people that are homeless that'll be accessing this center. It's important to note that, you know, a lot of the overdose deaths that are happening in the province are you know, housed people, usually men using alone. And so we hope to target some of those folks on these interventions as well. So it really will be open to the public for the folks that are suffering from mental health and addiction concerns. And then, well, no, I think I'll leave it there. I think I covered your question. I don't know if you're satisfied with that, Trustee Croft.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Doman?
How will this clean up this neighborhood and get rid of our campgrounds that we have down in New York Street, which seem to, it's endless down there? And how will it help the school district reduce its costs that we're putting into this? Are you fencing, security, noon hour supervisors? And how will this help our principals and vice principals who have to sweep our grounds every morning just to ensure that they're safe for our students to come in?
So a presenter would like to respond to that?
Sure. Thank you, Trustee Dolman, for the question. More of a statement, but you know, asking about. Okay. So campgrounds, I think the solution for a campground is probably housing. Typically, people don't want to be in camps. And I'm not sure this center on its own in isolation will help with the campground problem. That's probably a lack of housing in the neighborhood and within the region. And I think that the Drinkwater site and the White Road site, you will see some help there, hopefully. As people get well through their addiction and mental health, chances of them connecting to, you know, their community, to being better neighbors, to, you know, looking at the employment options, as one of the other trustees mentioned earlier, is far more likely. And so it will have an impact there, but it won't be, you know, a magic wand to kind of make all of those things change at one time. In terms of neighborhood cleanup, there is a commitment of the partnership, the Wellness Center, to have some peer programming, looking at you know, street sweeps and garbage pickups and some of that kind of stuff. So I think that it will be helpful there. Just the fact that you're providing needed services in the neighborhood should increase the relationship of the vulnerable folks. So right now, you know, I've walked the neighborhood, I've seen the neighborhood. It's you know, you can see, you know, definitely the impact of open drug use and addiction concerns and mental health concerns. You know, having that indoors should go a long way for public safety. You should, you know, you should have more refuge indoors as opposed to on the streets, and it should be away from the kids in terms of, you know, not all of it, but a lot of it should be. And then as people again get well and people cycle through then and no longer need the help of the center, they won't be around at all. You know, fencing and security is something that the site also will be considering and doing some of that work ourselves. So I certainly empathize with the school district and the costs associated. I mean, any one of our sites that we operate as an organization has those same kind of costs. And I think that all the school districts across the province are dealing with a very similar kind of issue. You know, this is ill public policy and a long time for people to be street entrenched, and the acuity of the addiction and mental health is you know, unprecedented here in the province, and you know, so it's going to take a while for us to work our way out of that, you know, but I do think the center can provide opportunities to vulnerable people that they don't currently have in that neighborhood.
Thank you. Follow-up question, Trustee Doman?
How are you going to do this when you're only open 6 hours a day?
Does someone have an answer to that question for us?
Yeah, and thank you for that question. And I also wanted to add just a little bit to Shane's comment, is that the spectrum of services that I described that will be located at the Wellness and Recovery Center, they are outreach teams. And so they will be out in the community doing the work that they're already doing across our community. And so another piece to sort of that traffic in the area will be, our teams will be out there and they will be connecting with people and engaging with people and inviting them to different opportunities for their health and wellness. The hours of operation for Island Health at the Wellness and Recovery Center will be 8 o'clock in the morning till 8:45. I think it is the time is when the last shift ends. So greater than 6 hours for sure. And I think the overdose prevention site on the first floor, the hours of operation are 12 to 8. Yeah,
Is that 7 days a week?
correct.
Well, unless there are any other burning questions from our trustees, we could end this topic. Okay, well, I want to thank Shannon and Dana and Shane and Lisa for joining us today, for giving us an update and for answering our questions. We are very pleased to be a part of your Community Advisory Committee in the future, and we look forward to working with you to try to make an impact for the community. We know this is an extremely needed service. We are not particularly happy with the location. I might as well just be open and honest with you. But we will work with you, and hopefully our concerns will dissipate as we move forward. So thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you for inviting us. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving to 7.1.2, Ecole Mount Provost staff response to community incident. And as you may remember, on May the 14th, a neighborhood emergency situation required the community of Ecole Mount Provost to be removed off school property out of an abundance of caution. Administration and staff worked efficiently and quickly to organize all students to be calmly removed from the school to the nearby soccer fields. Staff were very helpful in supporting their learners during this evacuation event. All students were well cared for with comfort aids such as water and food while waiting for their parents to pick them up. The board received very positive feedback from a parent who was extremely satisfied with the school response. In addition, district staff supported the school response with the following. For operations and transportation, they were extremely helpful in supporting the overall school and family community by providing shelter and organization in support of student pickup. And inclusive education provided support for student release, handed out comfort foods, as well as providing support to everyone overall. It was an extremely well-managed situation that was recognized not only by us and staff, but by parents. All very calm and well done. So I just wanted to bring that forward to make sure the board were aware of what happened on May the 14th there. On 7.1. Are there any questions about that or comments? No, okay. On 7.1.3 Indigenous Culture Event, the board passed a motion in early spring to acknowledge all youth and specifically our Indigenous youth by providing a message of hope and inspiration through this cultural event. The event will kick off on June the 14th during the Hulkaminam language lessons with our district elder, Dolly Sylvester, via video messaging from the following participants: the board chair, the superintendent and district elder, trustee Thorne, and Tuseelam. All nations received a letter from the board chair requesting short video messages, and I know I did get a personal call back from Chief Harris from Stamanis, said that she was happy to support this endeavor and would be sending in a cell phone video. Our Indigenous youth leaders, as well as DSAC, have also provided a video message, and the full release of the video will go out to all schools on June the 22nd in honor of Indigenous Peoples Day. Any questions about that one? Okay, so moving to our board performance review, our fall retreat. Next week at board planning, we'll begin the process. So Gordon Lee, the Director of Education Services for BC STA, will attend for our first hour to give an overview of the process and to introduce the board performance review questions. We'll all do the questions individually, but we will be together as a group. And then from there, it's an electronic program. So the summary of our answers will be provided. And from there, hopefully Gordon will be able to draw on themes that come out, and then we'll be able to design the content for the fall retreat. Any questions on that? Okay, moving on. The Ad Hoc Anti-Racism Committee, and as some of you were there, you would know that the first meeting has occurred and it was well attended. Unfortunately, we had chosen the same date as our local teachers unions were unable to attend that first meeting, but otherwise everyone was there. And it was obvious that everyone was personally and professionally engaged in the work. Kevin Lamoureux was an excellent facilitator, and as he facilitated answers, he brought in all his knowledge and depth of understanding about anti-racism. So it was a real learning opportunity, and we've had the first meeting. Our next meeting is on September 23rd. And Trustee Thorne, as co-chair, did you wish to say anything about our first meeting?
I was really impressed. I think some of the ideas coming out, some of the comments were positive, and can't wait for the next one. And you're right about Kevin. He's cool.
That's great. He was a good choice. Okay, anything else on that? Okay. Oh, Trustee Croft?
Yeah, I just had a question in terms of developing the content and the agendas for future meetings. Is there a process in place, or are we going with the flow, or how does it work?
Well, actually, we have been referring that to Kevin because he's done similar work in the past. You know, he certainly touches base, particularly with our superintendent and myself. But we're really thinking he can move from our discussions into how best to move forward. So did you have something you wanted to put on the agenda?
I was just thinking that we have a pretty big community and a lot of community representatives from different organizations, and that along the way, they'll probably have some input. So I'm sure that will come along as we progress. So thank you very much.
Okay, well, and you can certainly bring it up too at our meetings, for sure.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, item 7.1.6 is Pride Month, and if you've been into the building, a school board office I'm speaking of, or have driven by, you may have noticed the Pride flag is up, and this is just a reminder that this is Pride Month, and so our flag will continue to be there. Any comments, questions? Okay, moving to item 7.1.7, Kamloops Residential School Discovery. Just a statement that we all know about the horrific discovery of the remains of 215 Indigenous children at the residential school site in Kamloops. I'd like to suggest that we take a moment of silence just to reflect on this occurrence, reflect on its impact for Kamloops, for that Indigenous community, but also the Indigenous communities here and across Canada, and to reflect on our own impact. Ask us to take the moment. Thank you. Thanks also to our staff for immediately reacting and declaring the wearing of orange shirts by staff and students this week. I've noticed in the community that it's certainly parents and other community members who are all in orange. And I am very proud to see that we are here tonight in orange from all of us. I think it is a very dramatic way of us saying how much we are entering this period of sorrow, feeling for all of our Indigenous people. I'm also very pleased that our staff added counseling support everywhere, and pleased that the Canadian government asked for flags to be flown at half-mast indefinitely. The board has written letters to all of our chiefs and councils in the Cowichan Valley, as well as to the Kamloops First Nation, to acknowledge this horrific wrong and to join in their feeling of great sorrow. We will continue to take actions to recognize the truth and to continue on our journey to reconciliation. I believe that this discovery will act as a catalyst for change in Canada. I see Trustee Hutchins.
Yeah, Madam Chair, appreciate your words. I'm just wondering if it's appropriate for our board to pass a resolution to encourage the federal government to join those provinces that are funding other studies. There is more than dozens of, I'm not quite sure how many dozens of residential schools are across Canada, but this is not the only grave site that is unmarked. And I know there has been calls from across Canada for the funding and the search for those graves. And part of the sad part of the story here is that the Kamloops First Nation had to trigger that investigation based on the stories of missing children rather than the federal or provincial government initiating it. I understand the provincial government helped with funding that, but I think we should add our voice to that call for further investigations of all potential unmarked grave sites in the residential schools across BC and Canada.
Thank you, and I think you have probably immense agreement. Do you have a short form of your statement that could be used as a motion?
I will try, and I'm sure Mr. Sandquist will help me with it, that the Board of Trustees of School District number 79 call upon the federal government and provincial government to fund the necessary costs to undertake ground studies of all residential school sites for the potential of unmarked graves.
Thank you, Trustee Hutchins, and seconded by, I believe I saw Trustee Thorne's hand go up initially. So are there any, is there any debate on the motion?
Not a debate, but a comment. I know that at the director's meeting with BCSTA, one of the suggestions I made as your knowledge keeper was that a letter be drafted for our Minister of Education, as well as our president, to have a letter hand delivered with a blanket. And I would hope that we had done the same here in Cowichan, because a blanket is very significant in covering to keep people warm. Thinking of those kids, they were cold.
Mhm. Thank you, Trustee Thorne. And I think perhaps we should be copying the letter to certainly our local representatives provincially and federally. I'm not sure if we need a separate motion for that, or perhaps it could just be added as a friendly amendment. What
I
do
will
you-
second that. I will support that friendly amendment as the mover.
Thank you. And the seconder, I'm sure would as well. Thank you. So motion on the table. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Any further comments or questions on this item? Thank you. Moving for board action. The first is our Community of Care Pledge. And as you know through advisory committee, it was indicated that the word abilities had not been in the Community of Care Pledge when we accepted it originally. And so it's back on the table just to make sure that this is the final wording for our pledge. Any comments? Okay, is there a mover for the motion? Moved by Trustee Cross, seconded by Trustee Kemmler. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item 7.2.2, Hulkaminum entrance signs. And on the agenda was included on page 26, the sign that is up in downtown Duncan, which I have heard has certainly been well received in the community, and it just welcomes people in. And we have a bit of that welcome sign on the entrance to our school board office. So maybe that could be, or is that the whole language in the sign outside our main door? Mr. Sandquist or Ms. Gray, can you remind me? It is? Yeah.
No, I think Claire has the answer to that.
Ah, Claire?
Equum e nuilum tap, which means please everybody come in.
And that's the sign that's outside our school board office door.
Correct.
Thank you. If you would mind rehearsing us later, we could attempt the pronunciation. So the idea is perhaps we need to have the same in our school buildings, or perhaps there's some other way of inviting our Indigenous people in. Trustee Croft?
Well, I was just wondering if in the same way that we did the Community of Care Pledge, if we could make it available for download for our partners in schools and so forth, and that way it might have a little more exposure. Do I have to move that?
Could you move the one that's on the agenda first?
Yeah.
Okay, moved by Trustee Croft that the Board of Education refers the City of Duncan entrance sign to staff to report back to the board on recommended signage for the entrances of Cowichan Valley School District buildings. Moved by Trustee Croft, seconded by Trustee DeGroot. Further conversation on the motion?
I wish we could keep it simple, like just say something like Nimiqua. That's easy for everybody to learn, and it has the same passion when you say Nimiqua, welcome.
Ah, okay, thank you. And staff would have heard that. So our motion is to ask them to come up with signage. So all those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item 7.2.3, National Indigenous Peoples Day on June the 21st, 2021. And as suggested motion is simply that we recognize that day. Is there a mover for the motion? Moved by trustee Cross, seconded by trustee DeGroot. Any debate on the motion? All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Moving to item 8, Superintendent of Schools, Ms. Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just moving on to 8.1.1 personnel updates. I'd like to share with the board that we have hired Darlene Crane as our district principal of instruction and innovation with regard to literacy and numeracy. She comes from a wealth of knowledge and experience with regard to literacy, as well as the fact that presently she has been an elementary and a secondary administrator. And she's very, very knowledgeable around professional learning communities and response to intervention. And so we'll be welcoming her in August 1st as starting the new school year with us and joining our team. And then secondly, I would like to introduce our new Associate Secretary Treasurer. Her name is Erin Eglund. And Erin Eglund is presently a professor at VIU, and she leads the education around accounting. She will begin her role starting on July 1st, where there will be a transitional time overlapping with our current Assistant Secretary Treasurer, Karen Blow, and working through year end and through the audit. Erin is from Cowichan Valley, and she is looking forward to joining our team as well. Both of those folks will be introduced most likely in our September board meeting.
Thank you. They sound like wonderful people. Very skilled and knowledgeable. Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, moving on to 8.1.2. In your package, you will see that there have been some guidance from the Ministry of Education. And presently right now, our Secretary Treasurer has put up our graduation ceremony plans for our review. But before we do that, I just wanted to share the key parameters that have come to us from the ministry. And those ceremony options include drive-through ceremonies, learning group ceremonies, traveling roadshow ceremonies, and also individual ceremonies. So that's the guidance that we've received from the province. And we as an educational sector have to continue with these particular health and safety measures. And I want to share with the board that that is indicated, I believe, in all of our school plans here. So you can see Francis Kelsey, they'll be holding their graduation ceremony on June the 15th. They will have cohorts that are only in the gym, walk-up style with no guests, and recorded and to be distributed to parents. And they're also going to have a drive-through model on June 16th and 17th. Parents and families in cars, students walk up and red carpet to receive the diploma, and they have a picture taken and then they drive away. So you can see already that we have some creative things happening in our schools with regard to this most relevant ceremony, I think, for all parents, students, and families with regard to graduation. At Chemaina Secondary, June the 17th, there's going to be a morning grad ceremony in the multipurpose room with only grads and staff because they cannot have outside visitors. And in the afternoon, a barbecue and a grad fun activity outside. And on June the 18th, they will have a drive-through grad in front of the school per family again. In Lake Cowichan on June the 19th, they will have individual graduation ceremonies for students with a maximum of 4 guests as per the Ministry of Education COVID planning. So very individualized, very personalized. And I think for any of those trustees who have been to Lake Cowichan for the graduation, we have small numbers with great creativity that happens there. And then at CVOC on June the 21st through the 23rd, drive-through model with parents and families in their car. And for those who cannot attend, they will be doing something different and something personalized. They will also have a grad diploma delivery to home or creating something that is more individualized. Cowichan Secondary on June the 24th, cohorts of students in the gym for walk-up, no guests, ceremonies recorded and distributed to parents. And students will also have the option of the drive to grad, where the diploma is taken to the home in the evening. Both of these events are planned for June the 24th. And I know with regard to that grouping, various staff members from Cowichan Secondary will visit the home and be very celebratory with the families around the graduation or the graduate. The International Student Program on June the 7th, they will have school-based staff will be presenting certificates during each high school's grad ceremony. So they're incorporating that within the realm of each school. And then lastly, but certainly not least, Indigenous education. There will not be a ceremony this year, but they will be doing something at each individual school site around our Indigenous graduates. So very inclusive. They will be acknowledged by school-based Indigenous education staff during individual school commencements. So you can see that all of our schools have something that's quite different that's occurring around graduation ceremonies. And I congratulate all the school and the staffs for working through that. It has been very challenging. They've been pivoting and certainly trying to do what they can, what's best for the students and the families during a very celebratory time. If it's okay, I will move on to 8.1.3, the school calendar 2021-2022. It is in your package. But for the board's information, the Cowichan Valley Teachers Federation has now confirmed their non-instructional professional development dates for 2021-2022. Very grateful for them for providing that to us. And there are no changes that are needed in our calendar. And so their dates are specific to October the 22nd, which is in, I believe, light blue, February the 18th, and May the 6th. So much appreciative to them for getting that out, because I know our staff and our schools and our families look forward to knowing those days. And without any further questions, I will move on to 8.1.4. I have a little bit of a lengthy report, so if the board can work with me on this lengthy report, but we do have some photos at the end. So I wanted to preview that, and I know that Jason, our Secretary Treasurer, as well as Claire, is supporting me in that endeavor. So firstly, what I want to do is I want to acknowledge and share my appreciation with our district elder, as well as our knowledge keepers, for guiding us to and around our district response to the former Kamloops Residential School. I know that they have been very helpful, along with our district principals of Indigenous education, who certainly guided us with regard to our response. And I know that I'd like to really say to all of our staff and our schools out there, they certainly responded very rapidly and very quickly over the weekend, and they had their own ceremonies and their own context with regard to that matter on Monday morning. And so much appreciation. And of course, we also have our critical incidents response team. They were certainly put together and had to be out there and support any of our students and our staff who might need that. So very appreciative of all of those folks who came to the table. And I probably wouldn't be as great as maybe Trustee Thorne he suggested earlier, but I did bring something to our district elder last evening, just a little bit of an acknowledgement, an orange lily there for her, and a bit of a gift of food, so that just a little bit of her own comfort as well. So just wanted to share that with you as well. And then moving on, I wanted to give a bit of a shout out to our Veronica Meyer. And I think that all of us know Veronica. She has been our grade 12 students from Francis Kelsey, who has been part of DSAC for a number of years. So we've kind of got to know her quite well. And so she happened to be on CBC's On the Island with Gregor Craigie, along with 2 other high school students on May the 25th. And Veronica spoke about what it was like as a grade 12 student during a complete year of classes during a pandemic. And she certainly did the district and her school proud, and certainly shared how responsive her teachers have been with regard to her grade 12 class. And so it was just a pleasure to hear Veronica Meyer share her experiences in the Cowichan Valley at Francis Kelsey on the radio show. So thank you, Veronica. I don't know if she's listening, but if she is, great work. And then I want to talk about our district scholarship update. I know that some of our trustees here today on Zoom certainly participated in some of the presentations. I know Trustee Spilsbury, Trustee DeGroot, and Kemmler. I know that you were part of the judging, so thank you very much. There were a total of 93 scholarships for $1,250 that were allocated to Cowichan Valley School District for a total of amount of $116,250. The breakdown of the awards between all schools, Shemina Secondary, they had 11, Cowichan Secondary School 34, Francis Kelsey 27, Lake Cowichan 8, and Seavok 13. Most of the schools completed judging during the weeks of May 10th through the 21st, and Cowichan Secondary completed on May the 28th, and when they held a second set of Zoom presentations. So congratulations to all of our district scholarship winners. Moving on, we had the First Nation Outcomes Indigenous team. They came to visit us and met with all of our district team on May the 12th. And certainly we invited some of our school-based principals and vice principals. And we shared with them how we were doing and how we were meeting the needs of our Indigenous learners. And we will be meeting again with them on July the 5th. Moving on to Ignite Sounds Bite. That was held on May the 13th. There were a number of sessions that were held by our learning coordinators. We had listening for action, career and dual credit opportunities for students. ADHD is not a behavior problem. OK Zoomer, the 5 critical components of reading, creating inclusive classroom communities, as well as Bloom's taxonomy, critical thinking to critical feedback. So a shout out to our learning coordinators who continue that good work around professional learning via Zoom. And then I wanted to move on to an update on Ready, Set, Learn and Ready, Set, Go. So this year's Ready, Set, Learn, which is community-based, they were held, these events were held as an outdoor story walk format and were hosted by our Strong Start facilitators. 24 events were offered during the month of May at 4 park locations: Tom Bannister Park, Bright Angel Park, Friendship Forest, and Cowichan Sportsplex. As of last week, attendance was reported as follows: 134 participants, 74 children, 60 adults, and there are 9 more sessions to report on with regard to those numbers. So a great community response to a great learning event. And then we have the Ready, Set, Go event, which is school-based, and it was also an outdoor story walk format, and were hosted by all of our kindergarten teachers during the month of May. And so to support the goal of providing families with the opportunity to view the inside of the school classroom, all schools created either a video or a children's book with visuals about what they might find inside the classroom. The classroom, the washroom, the library, the staff. They were also sent home with event swag bags. And these included scissors, crayons, glue stick, Play-Doh, Play-Doh mat, dice, welcome to K brochures, kindergarten immunization information, and a variety of child development information, including support for play, fine motor skills, and oral language development. I think it might bring back some memories for some of you. And as of last week, a third of the schools had reported, only a third, that there were 178 adults and 148 children attend. So that was only a report of 5 of the 15 events. And so we look forward to our kindergartners joining us in the fall. The next one is a parent information session around communicating student learning. That is occurring on June the 2nd. And so this is a great opportunity for parents to learn more about how kindergarten through grade 9 student learning is communicated in BC and Cowichan. And so this will be led by one of our learning coordinators, Karina Fitzner, and it will be 2 20-minute parent information sessions scheduled at 9:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. So we can catch the early group or the late group of our parents with regard to our communicating student learning. Always more questions about that as we move forward, because some of our parents are not familiar with how we do that these days. Next, we will be having the school district office painted. And so the exterior painting is scheduled to be painted this summer. And so for those of you who have been by lately, you can see that it's in dire need of that. And as well, we have not a new logo, but a logo that certainly is newer and probably needs to be presented on our school board office. And before we move to the photos, just wanted to share, I've had the great fortune to get out to some schools just as of late, Ecole Cobble Hill, Coheman Elementary, and Ecole Mont Prevost. Always a pleasure to visit schools, and there's a lot of activity going on because they have those cohorts going out at different times outside. And so you watch when you are outside for a while and you see about every 40 minutes, there's a new classroom that goes out and they go to a different part of the field. And we can certainly see that there's some value in some of the way that we do our business this year. And we'll look forward to how we do some of the same things next year, if there's room for that. Now the photos begin, just to give you a bit of a high alert there, Secretary Treasurer. We're going to start with Hulkaminum street signs given voice by our Alexandra Elementary students. And so here you can see, as reported at the May board meeting over the past month, students at Alexandra Elementary have been busy giving voice to downtown Duncan's Hulkaminum street signs. Kelly Gervin from Alexandra Elementary partnered with culture and language teacher Claudia Sylvester, and the pair selected 7 Hulkaminum speaking students to voice the 7 street names and create a community resource. That resource will now be found on street sign cards, which will be available on our Indigenous Education website and in handouts that the Downtown Duncan Business Improvement Association will be sending out to all businesses. So they're quite, they're celebrities really. We now have, so you can see the 3 photos there. And also, in addition to that, you could also hear these students on CBC Radio's All Points West with Catherine Marlowe on May the 27th to discuss the project of the Hulkaminum street sign and how they got involved. And so the kids were also on that particular episode on CBC Radio. And then moving to our Cowichan Valley School District's first electric bus. It's here. And before I share a little bit more about that, I had the great pleasure of receiving an email from somebody in, I believe, Arkansas, who saw our bus on the road, on a trailer coming here, must have looked up where Cowichan Valley School District is at on the map, sent me an email and sent me some photos of it coming and making its way up to Cowichan Valley in Canada. And so he was quite surprised. I'm assuming it was a he based on his name, and realized that that was the first electric bus that he had ever seen. And that's why he sent me an email and a photo. But now it's here and it has arrived and it's rolled into town, and it will be safely transporting students to and from school. The IC bus Type C electric school bus will not only benefit students and staff by being smoother and quieter than their diesel counterparts, the bus will save over 2,000 liters of fuel every year. So it's going to be very helpful on our environment, and the bus will be more than transportation for students. It will be also used as an educational tool for schools and the community. And there'll be plenty of opportunity for others to see the new bus as our restrictions are eased. So we look forward to more e-bus events in the future. I think we'd have to get under the hood to see what it really looks like, I guess, because it looks very similar to a regular school bus. And then moving on to Cowichan Secondary School, they had a mock crash car display for their students. And on May the 18th, courtesy of ICBC and the North Cowichan Duncan RCMP, a mock crash scene was set up at Cowichan Secondary for students and staff to experience a real-world example of the consequences of high-speed crashes. Local first responders, including the RCMP, Duncan Fire Department, and the Provincial Ambulance Service, were on scene to help reinforce the message about speed being the #1 contributing factor for fatal crashes involving youth, and distracted driving being the top contributing factor for injury crashes involving youth. So a great learning experience for our Cowichan Secondary students. And then lastly, again at Cowichan Secondary, a weaving project. And I know this was initiated by their inquiry that happened a couple of years ago in Indigenous Ed, and how do we hear from students and what do they need? And so local Indigenous knowledge keepers, role models, and an expert weaver are joining together with students at Cowichan Secondary School to create a lasting memory of the students' time at the school. Earlier this year, a large loom was set up in the library of Cowichan Secondary The loom was the start of a blanket weaving project that would see every student in the school weave at least one line into the collective blanket. The project has been slightly postponed, but will continue as we move forward. Students have been studying with master weaver Cheryl Joe to start the long process of weaving the blanket together. Cheryl started weaving with classes in preparation for the larger project. Each student in a class that was involved created their own woven pouch before being invited over to the larger blanket project. While weaving the blanket is a beautiful act in its own right, the process does not start or end there. That's where Elder John George and his sibling Edna George joined to help. And they came to Carrollton Secondary to teach students how to wash and process raw wool. From washing, rinsing, and air drying, the process turned the dirty drab wool into something that could be processed into the proper material for the blanket project. The process is just starting, and we want to recognize the time and knowledge offered by our elder, knowledge keepers, role models, and master weaver. So that is my update. Are there any questions or comments before I move on?
Trustee Hutchins?
Thank you for those stories, but I'm particularly interested in the electric bus. Are we just receiving one, or is there more on the way? And what is the capital cost difference between the electric bus and a diesel bus?
Superintendent or staff? Or
I would love to pass it on to our Secretary Treasurer because I think he has more detail.
Thank you. Secretary Treasurer?
I do. It's coming up in the agenda under my section under the capital plan bylaw announcement, where you'll see that there are 4 school buses that have been funded at $187,000 each. So we have the ability to translate those dollars in addition to grants, add grants onto those dollars to get close to the cost of $380,000 of a school bus. So what's remaining, what the difference is approximately anywhere between $56,000 and $90,000, depending on the type of bus. But the buses that we buy is about a $56,000 differential. However, there is a plan to finance that difference by government to use the savings generated by that electric bus to make the payments on that differential. So if you can't demonstrate that you have savings, you don't pay it back. If your savings are quick, you pay it back quickly. If your savings take a while, it takes you a while to pay it back. It's about 1% interest. So there is a mechanism to convert those 4 school buses into further electric buses.
Thank you. Back to Superintendent.
Thank you very much. I will move on to 8.2 for potential board action. Attached in your package, you'll see a board authorized course. It's Volleyball 11. This would be offered to students of a moderate to advanced skill level to provide a more focused, in-depth volleyball learning experience, allowing them a more varied skill set and to certainly, I think, set them up for a future post-secondary opportunity. And so I'd like to present it for board's consideration around that particular motion.
Is there a mover of the motion? Trustee Hutchins? Move the approval of the BA course, Volleyball 11. Seconder, Trustee DeGroot. Any conversation? All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. And thank you, Superintendent, for your in-depth overview of very exciting things in our schools. Thank you, and thanks to staff. Lots of amazing, great work out there. Moving to item 9, Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you. I'll start with an information item, and that is just the summer office hours for the board office complex. There is one change that will need to be brought to your attention, and that is that central receiving are 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. So that would be their hours from July 5th to August 27th as they work a compressed day. The school board office closes to the public from July 5th to August 27th, but staff are here. working on finances and payroll and etc. And then operations department closes down, doesn't close, but changes their hours from 7:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. and just closes for an hour for lunch during that period of time. So pretty standard as per previous years, but just to get it out into the public that the board office hours are amended through the summer months. And my next item is the capital plan bylaw, and this is where the school buses come back in. So I'm going to share the screen and show you the projects. We did see a preliminary capital plan announcement earlier. It did not have the school buses, and it did not have an item that was embargoed up until this morning, which is why it's blacked out on the agenda package, but I'll explain what it is because it's no longer embargoed. So I'm going to bring up that announcement. So as part of the board's 5-year capital plan, the following projects have been approved. Under the minor projects capital response letter, we have roofing projects at Ecole Mount Provost, Tanzer Elementary, Somenos, and Chemainus Elementary. And there's also an energy system upgrade at Quamachin Middle School. Moving on, this item that was embargoed this morning that isn't now is $165,000 for a playground, an accessible playground at Alex Aiken School. So that comes out of the playground provincial program. And then under buses, there are 4 buses for replacements, each funded, I think I said 187, I got those numbers backwards in my memory, $178,000 for what are called the Class D buses. And those we're just going through the analysis of whether or not those need to be converted to electric school buses, and we'll bring that back to the board when that's been completed. How we go about doing that. So that is what has been announced through this year's capital plan, and there's a bylaw in the package, which requires 3 readings in order for the funding to begin to arrive. And those motions are up here. Sorry, I'm scrolling quickly. They are right here, and they are to give first reading to capital plan bylaw number 21-02.
Thank you. Is there a mover for the first reading of the bylaw? Moved by trustee Kemmler, seconded by trustee Hutchins. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to second reading motion. Is there a mover for the second reading? Moved by trustee DeGroot, seconded by trustee Thorne. Any conversation? Oh, trustee Croft?
I'm just, are we reflecting in the bylaw or any of these documents that we will be making an effort to purchase electric buses over the diesel?
Mr. Sandquist?
No, this is just to get that initial $178,000 for the school bus. We'll need to bring back a plan on the types of grants that are available to expand it to the full electric, as well as the consideration of the financing agreement. So this has just been announced, and we have some work to do before we bring that back to the board and actually put it in a purchase. So this bylaw will just ensure that you get the first part. The other funding would come out of these grant programs and the financing component.
Thank you very much.
Any further conversation, debate on the second reading? All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to considering giving 3 readings of the capital plan bylaw at this meeting. Is there a mover for that motion? Moved by trustee Thorne, seconded by trustee DeGroot. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to the final motion of giving 3rd and final reading to the capital plan bylaw. Moved by trustee Croft, seconded by trustee Thorne. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you. That's the end of my report.
Yes, thank you for that. Moving to item 10, committees and outside organizations. The first is the minutes of the April 15th, 2021 DPAC meeting. I attended, so I will move that the Board of Education of School District 79, Cowichan Valley receives the April 15th, 2021 DPAC minutes. Moved by trustee Spilsbury, seconded by trustee Croft. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item B, which is the minutes of the May 6th, 2021 Ad Hoc Anti-Racism Committee meeting. Trustee Thorne, would you like to move that motion? Oh, you got to turn on your mic, though.
I would like to move that we accept
Moved by trustee.
the Racism Board.
Okay, we're receiving the minutes of the Anti-Racism Committee meeting, moved by trustee Thorne, seconded by trustee, I think trustee Croft, you were there. Okay, great. Seconded by trustee Croft. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item C, the Early Learning and Childcare Committee meeting, trustee DeGroot. Turn on your mic though.
You know what I said. I move that the board receive minutes from that meeting.
Moved by trustee DeGroot, seconded by trustee Croft. All those in favor, motion carries. Moving to item D, the highlights of the May 13th, 2021 DSAC meeting. Trustee Doman. Oh, turn on your mic though. Sorry.
I couldn't attend that, but I'd like to move the minutes of the DPAC meet or the DSAC meeting May 13th.
Thank you. Moved by trustee Doman, seconded by another trustee who will be trustee Croft. Thank you. All in favor? Motion carries. Highlights of the May 18th Advisory Committee meeting, trustee Croft.
I'm sorry, so moved.
Moved by trustee Croft, seconded by trustee Thorne. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to BEBC meeting of May 5th, 2021, I think chaired by trustee Kemmler.
I'd like to move that the Board of Education of School District 79 receive the minutes of the May 25th Board of Education and Business Committee meeting.
Thank you. Moved by trustee Kemmler, seconded by trustee DeGroot. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, moving to upcoming meetings and events. So the schedule is attached and here it is. So we have June as well as some September there, which is a good notification for us. Any questions or comments from anyone? Okay, moving through item 12, correspondence. There is no new business either. Moving to question period. Are there any questions from the audience?
So just monitoring the question and answer or the chat, and so far do not see anything in either of those. So I guess we just give it a few more seconds in case somebody's typing.
Okay.
And they're both still blank.
Okay, thank you. So moving to item 15, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by trustee DeGroot, seconded by trustee Doman. Is that your hand up? Yep. Okay. All those in favor? Motion carries.